Good evening, friends. Welcome to the India Power Talk. As you know, India Power Talk is an initiative wherein we invite international thought leaders and domain experts to create an easily accessible digital reservoir of their insights, experiences, and strategies on the economy. To talk on the current state of innovation in India and the role of Indian scientists, I have with me the premier architect of India's science and technology vision and mission, and renowned expert in polymer science and engineering, someone who has been honored doctorates by 42 global universities, Padma Vibhushan Dr. R A Mashelkar. The coronavirus pandemic has caused unprecedented damage to both lives and livelihoods. Years of gains have been wiped off in just few days. The poor has been the hardest hit. We are all looking at the economic recovery, but equally important is not just the recovery, but reimagining and reinventing the entire economy, environment, and education. In this entire process, innovation is going to play a major role. To start with, sir, can you tell us about the severity and the impact of coronavirus pandemic itself?
Impact of the coronavirus pandemic has been enormous. First of all, we must understand the rapidity at which this has happened. If you look at just a Q2, within that, I would say almost 100 days, almost 100 million people were plummeted from poverty to extreme poverty. In just 100 days, 450 million jobs were lost. In just 100 days, 1.6 billion children went out of school. And online learning, working from home, schooling from home became the norm. The total cost to economy is $16 trillion. If you look at the sustainable development goals, 17 of them, each one of them has been hit. So I think the world is in a reset mode, that when we look at reconstruct, when we look at repair, we look at recovery, this is an opportunity for us to look back and reinvent, reimagine, rethink of the new world.
How the scientist community, the technologists have responded to it, especially with reference to India?
It is only the science in which you have to believe in. It will come to rescue because science solves, science creates solutions by which we will be saved. So I think faith in science is extremely important. And science, which used to be on a periphery, has suddenly come to the center stage.
Yes.
As you can see, science, technology, and innovation. And if you see around the world, the informed decisions are being taken by the political leadership all across the world, including India, by the way, by using scientists, technologists, and innovators. If you just see, for example, at the beginning of the pandemic and look at India, we had, as far as diagnostic capacity was concerned, it was close to zero as far as COVID was concerned.
Yes.
So there was limited diagnostic capacity. There was no point of care diagnosis. There were no vaccines, no therapeutics. Ventilators were importing. Then personal protection equipment were largely importing, and all sorts of challenges. And you just see the dramatic change.
Yes.
You know, just look at PPEs, personal protection equipment. You will see that just in March, we were importing them. And can you believe it, in July?
We're exporting.
Exported 2.3 million. Can you just imagine the turnover, the change? So there, the scientists, the technologists, the innovators, the public sector as well as private sector coming together, all that has happened by looking at science as the platform. And even for that matter, vaccines, the whole world is in a race. There are some 30 candidates, out of which 3 are at phase 2 and phase 3 in India, basically. So you can quite clearly see science has responded, and science has responded rapidly, and science has responded with science that is actionable.
So can you give us some specific example? Let's start with your own organization, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, which you led for record number of, I guess, 11 years. So can you tell us the CSIR and our Indian scientists and how they are responding to the pandemic?
Oh, yes. I can say with great pride that they have responded absolutely fabulously. CSIR is a powerful uh, organization because it has a rich scientific and technological base, all right? And we have laboratories with diverse disciplines, diverse capacities. We have a track record of having done great things for India. Like, for example, the green revolution would not have taken place if there were no pesticides, insecticides, herbicides. And 70% of what was used was created by
I see.
CSIR. Today, we call ourselves the pharmacy of the world, generic drugs. You know, we are the biggest supplier
Yes.
uh, to offer generic drugs of very high quality, very lowly priced. The entire base was created by CSIR. So CSIR has lots of things to its credit. But here, what has happened, the magic has been that we have a great leader, Dr. Shekhar Mande, the Director
Mhm.
General, inspiring leader, and he's a real team builder. So he got the team CSIR together. Because normally what happens is the 40 labs behave like they're 40 labs, etc. But bringing them together was very, very important. And then they decided on the verticals, whether it was diagnosis, whether it was surveillance, whether it was drugs and therapeutics, vaccines, PPEs, then issues connected with supply chains. And they formed task forces and with very strict sort of timelines. So if you see, for example, just let us take one example of molecular and digital surveillance, and we require diagnostics for that, And if you look at the standard RT-PCR technology, etc., it takes a while. If somebody has a COVID,
Yes.
you don't know whether he has or not for 1 or 2 days because that's how long it takes. And how ideal it would be, like pregnancy kit, you immediately sort of get to know, you create a sort of paper strip. And the Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology has created that. And this year, as you know, the Nobel Prize was won by CRISPR, all right, which are like molecular scissors which cut and paste the genes. And they use that cutting edge technology, CRISPR-Cas9.
Mm.
And the beauty of that is that you get to know whether you have COVID or not within just 1 hour, all right? And the Tata Sons have partnered with them and they're going to sort of produce this. It has got all certifications. They're also looking for export. And the cost is just 500 rupees.
I
Yeah, so not 5,000, but 2,500. But so that is very important. Uh, what laboratories have done, for example, National Aerospace Laboratory, they're always in the air. They're thinking of building aircrafts and so on and so forth. But in this particular case, what they did was that they used their expertise. Like, for example, when you are up in the air, you have the oxygen mask,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they came to the ground and said, how should we develop those systems for the sort of ground level? So they created this, what is called as a Swashvayu, that is a BiPAP, which was a non-invasive ventilator. Within just 36 days, responding very fast. Central Building Research Institute, they were used to supplying things during disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis, etc., etc. So they had this basic background, and they created modular, foldable units, basically, which can be built very quickly. In fact, they created 50 labs in less than 5 days. I mean, this is sort of fantastic. Or our NCL, National Chemical Laboratory here
Mm.
in Pune.
In Pune.
Right? So many times you don't have the medical oxygen, basically. All right, you have to depend on gas cylinders. They said why?
Mm.
And they're great in membrane separation. They use that to create membrane separation, which will take oxygen from air and enrich it so that it is sufficient for the thing. I think the main point I'm trying to make there, each of
You're
the
right.
laboratories actually sort of rose to the occasion and created a sort of system. So I would overall say that it's not just about coming with 100 technologies in 100 days, but beyond that, not only saving us from the current crisis, but looking at the future,
Future.
creating and preparing for the future is what CSR has done.
Do you also see private players playing equally a responsible and a more engaging role in this current situation?
Yes, well, private sector, these PPEs that I talked about, which are getting exported, they were done by private sector only,
I see.
basically, in order to sort of create that. In fact, without industrial enterprises actually putting the products into the marketplace, it couldn't
That been
work,
difficult.
for example. So they have done that. But equally importantly, I would say they created an environment uh, in which people could be challenged. See, for example, Marico company, as you know, I think
Yes.
Safola and all those products, as you know, they sell them. It's a great company, but it has a great leader, Harsh Mariwal.
Yes.
Harsh Mariwala created Marico Innovation Foundation in 2003, almost 17 years ago, when innovation was not a buzzword at that
Yes.
time.
Absolutely.
And I have been his chairman for last 17 years. I'm very proud of that. And what we used to do was do a number of things for innovation. Like, for example, we will have Marico Innovation Foundation Awards, which we would give every 2 years based on whatever was going on. But this time we said, here is a challenge. And can we challenge the Indian community of scientists, technologists, and innovators? And he and Amit Chandra, Harsh Mariwala and Amit Chandra, put 2.5 crore from their own pocket and created what is called as a grand challenge. You know,
Right, Chairman.
grand challenge in a sense for the innovators to come out. And we picked up only PPEs and ventilators at that point in time.
I see.
Yeah, because they were the critical ones
Like,
at the time that I'm talking about. Today we are well placed. And it is amazing the kind of response. I remember within 3 weeks, we had 1,500 intents, out of which 600 submissions came. And I chaired that committee to do the selection.
hmm,
And 600, we scheduled it down to six. And there have been world-class breakthroughs
how-
that we have created, which are just meant for Indian conditions. Because, see, for example, ventilators, we import,
correct.
very expensive, like 15 lakh, 20 lakh, 10 lakh, depending upon the sophistication. But they're not affordable. So you have to
Yes.
make them first affordable. Secondly, they have to work under Indian conditions. Like in your Mumbai itself, you had a power breakdown.
Yes.
Now, because there is a power breakdown, the ventilator cannot stop. It has to run.
Yes, sir.
Or if you are taking ventilator to a village, where there is no access to electricity, or there are breakdowns, then also it has to work. So they created ventilators which will work under those conditions.
Very
The piped medical oxygen industry, will not be available. So you have to pick up oxygen from air, enrich it, and sort of use it. They created those. Many times there are no trained workers, so it has to run as a sort of on its own. So they created that. So KPIT Technologies, for example, right here in Pune, they
yes.
are software services. But Ravi Pandit said no. Is Chairman. He said we must rise to the occasion, and they created a fantastic ventilator. So private sector, I would say, has come in a big way. I'm very proud about the way that they did, whether they were Tata, they were Mahindras, or KPIT, or Marico, coming in and contributing.
So we have a large pool of SMEs and MSMEs and startups, roughly 6 crore. And in fact, we have started a startup campaign also in India. So do you think that the startups have made any difference to challenge the current pandemic? I mean, what do you see any startups or SME, MSME coming and really contributing in a big way to impact the society?
Hugely, I would say, I'm very proud. I'm particularly proud of that because these young people, we have a misperception that they are just interested in making money and not serving a public good or a social good. That is not the case. Their heart is in the right place. And I'll give you three or four examples just to
Sure.
illustrate how quickly they came. For example, after the pandemic broke away, right here in Pune, my lab, startup here, they created the PCR diagnostic kit, RT-PCR. And they solved 1.2 million tests, did those in 3 months' time. And it was 3 times cheaper than the standard one. You look at, for example, Dharavi. Now, in Dharavi, as you know, it's considered as a miracle. Making that happen, there were a number of things that were important. But one of them was identifying high risk patients and isolating them very quickly and treating them. That was very critical. And there, for example, this startup Pure.air,
Hmm.
they came and they had developed, based on artificial intelligence, something where 24 abnormalities in chest X-ray could be identified within sort of minutes. SASIT technology, for example, once again, using cutting edge technology like artificial intelligence, and just the way you cough, actually they were doing it already for TB. And
I
very quickly they repurposed it for sort of COVID, and particularly for asymptotic cases, this becomes important. What I'm most impressed with is a startup called Dozy. See, as you must have seen, we ran short of ICUs,
Yes,
right? And then what do you do? So can you just imagine that a normal bed can be converted into ICU? Looks like a dream, isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah, and he did that by using sensor technology, IoT, uh,
Uh-huh.
Internet of Things, basically placed under the bed, where there are so many parameters that you could measure, which you will measure in a sort of ICU and monitor. And that means a bed can be converted into an ICU within no time, all right? And at a cost which is 20 times cheaper. One of the American Innovation Foundation award winners is Noka Robotics. It was
Hmm.
IIT Kanpur based startup. Okay.
Okay.
They had nothing to do with ventilators. They were doing with robotics and advanced process automation. And they shifted to this. And within no time, within few weeks, they were able to create sort of a unique ventilator, which was a turbine-based ventilator, so that even if you don't have compressed medical air, you could supply it and price one third of the sort of
Wow.
standard. I'm so proud that our young generation, our Yuva Shakti, our youth power has just sprung into action and responded.
So I have several times heard from you that India is not a startup nation, but that it is a starting up nation. And we are still learning. And as a student of law and also as a student of science, we all believe that learning continues in life. So what are the learnings so far, and what can we do that we really become a startup nation like an Israel is?
First of all, the ability to take risks. They look at FAIL, FAIL, as first attempt in learning, FAIL. Your best guru, they say, is your last mistake. You learn from it. Second is uh, talent, technology, and trust is the tripod. We have plenty of talent. We have technology, but there has to be a trust. Now, I'll just give an example
Sure,
by
sure.
what I mean. I hope you have not had the misfortune of having had dengue. But if
Oh,
you had, you will find among your friends that it took a couple of days before they knew whether they had
correct.
dengue or not. Okay? Naveen Khanna created something where you don't have to wait for 2 days. You can do it in 15 minutes.
I see.
Not only in 15 minutes, but you will know because he had two powerful markers at what stage the dengue is. Okay? And what were we doing? We were dependent upon the imported kit from South Korea, from Australia, from America, and so on. And suddenly there was a dengue breakout. So
Hmm,
all
hmm.
kids were getting exhausted. So we approached these three countries for quick supply. America and Australia said it will take time, our processes. South Korea said we'll supply immediately. And South Korea um,
Supplied.
sort of supplied, but their ship did not come to India. By mistake, it went to Africa. So India had no kit at all. And Naveen Khanna, poor fellow, he was going from pillar to post. for years, and he was not getting acceptance at all. But India had no choice but to go for it. And then they went for it. And his market share, which was just 0% 4 years ago, today is 75%. Now, just imagine, Nitin, if the ship had come to India,
India.
he would still be waiting and he would be still 0%. This exemplifies, this is one example that exemplifies talent, technology, and trust. So we must believe in not only make in India, but believe in what we make in India, so as to say, you know. So I think that is the most important aspect. Also, we have to give the startups a head start. You think it is like this, you put a tender for a government order. First thing they will ask you is the experience. It is almost like Sachin Tendulkar, who made a century at the age of 15 in his first appearance in Ranji Trophy. But rather than taking him in the test, they would say, "But do you have 10 years experience to a 15-year-old?" So it is something like that, you know, startup. So we have to give them a chance.
Let's move towards the Indian innovation ecosystem as such. How do you compare it with the rest of the world, and where are we ahead of the rest of the world, and where are we behind? Now, just to give you a little on this is, I understand that there is a global innovation index where India has entered the top 50 and positioned itself at number 48. That's good news. But we have seen that during the past 10 years, China has risen very rapidly to number 22 position. Why could we not accelerate the way that they did it? I mean, I'm not comparing ourselves with China, but generally, what do we need to do so that Indian innovation ecosystem will be ranked among the top 10 in the world? We need to build that ecosystem. And who else other than you can comment upon this?
No, I totally agree with you. I think let me give a perspective. Global Innovation Index started more than a decade ago, and I have been on its international advisory board right from the start. Okay, and we are keeping on improving the Global Innovation Index over a period of time. Now, what happens in Global Innovation Index is that you measure things which can be measured by secondary data sources and so on and so forth, etc. But there are certain things you can't measure, so they are not counted. If you look at, let's say, what is now called as frugal innovation,
Yes.
you can call it affordable excellence, or I had coined the term Gandhian engineering, getting more from less for more. They all mean that you are looking at affordable excellence. All right. That means normally affordability and excellence don't go together. You say what is affordable can't be excellent, what is excellent can't be affordable. But India is capable of doing affordable excellence. 10 times better, but 10 times cheaper. You know, take Mars Orbiter mission, for example. We became the first nation, basically, to be successful in the very first effort. Not US, not China. And we did it at a cost, you know, which was just $74 million, which was 10 times less than US. And yet, both of us, our Mars Orbiter mission, Mangalyaan was circling sort of. So this ability to deliver excellence at a very low cost is our specialty. Unfortunately, that doesn't get counted in Global Innovation Index. Oh, China has surged way ahead because of their investments in science and technology, their commitment. You know, our investments have remained as a percentage of GDP, although in actual terms they have increased, almost the same as they were 20 years ago, whereas they have zoomed up dramatically. So lots of these things will have to be done in order to sort of lift these indicators. But doing innovation in the Indian way, you know, particularly belonging to the affordable excellence, we are absolutely at the top.
So you mentioned about Gandhian engineering just now in the last answer.
Hmm.
Gandhian engineering is based on the principle of more from less for more. I mean, can you explain that specifically? Particularly, what role can the Gandhian engineering play during the current pandemic situation?
The first tenet of Gandhi was that there is enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. What it means is that the resources that you have to preserve them for your great grandchildren and their great grandchildren. Now, how do you do that if you exhaust? So you have to exhaust less and less and create more and more out of it. So that is more from less. The second part is that he said that science, the power of science, the benefit of science must reach the poorest of the poor. All right. That means for all. So more from less and for more and more. So more from less for more. So it is more from less for more people, not profit.
Correct.
Of course, you can make profit, but the primary objective is getting more from less for more people. So innovation, which belongs to Gandhian engineering, belongs to this category of affordable excellence.
So one last message that you will have for the next generation.
Next generation, I would say, rather than giving one, I will give quickly five. All right, a bunch of five. The first is aspirations are your possibilities. Keep them high. The second is nowadays the young generation wants instant success, like instant coffee. Like instant coffee, there is no instant success. There is no substitute to hard work. I'm 77 now. I work 24 into 7, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And I will do so till I breathe my last. That's the second. Third is you keep on knocking on the doors of opportunity and they don't open. Open your new doors. The fourth one is uh, purpose, perseverance, and passion. They matter. Perseverance is most important. Okay. Quitters are never winners, and winners are never quitters. And the last one, the fifth Mashelkar mantra, is there is no limit to human imagination. There is no limit to human endurance. There is
Absolutely.
no limit to human achievement, excepting the limits you put on yourself. So anytime you receive anything as an award, etc., you know, my guru, Professor Sena Rao, I said, when I became FRS, which is next to Nobel Prize, when I phoned him up, he said, not bad. When I became American Academy of Arts and Science, only seventh Indian from 1780. When I phoned him up, he said, not bad. And when I got upset, I said, what do I have to do? At that time, the message that he gave me, I will leave it as a last thing. What he said was that, he said, Mashelkar, you are climbing on a ladder of excellence, which is limitless. It has no limit, excepting the limit you put on yourself. So my message will be, any achievement that you have, you should say, my best is yet to come. So my final mantra is that you may be, for young people, you may be in your 20s, you'll become 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 90. You live for 100 years, by the way, new generation. But even when you are 89, the first day, and that day in the morning when you wake up, you say, my best is yet to come. And maybe today will be the day that it will come. And if you count every day like this, you will be wherever you are at the highest level. But our India as a nation will have its rightful place in the Committee of Nations, which is right up there.
So thank you so much, and my sincere, once again, sincere gratitude for your valuable time and rich, really, really rich insights. So it was a pleasure talking to you. I would like to thank the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, the Indian Chamber of Commerce, Law Seco, and Indian SME Accelerator Network, who has been associated with us. Let me also conclude my vote of thanks with a humble prayer to the Almighty to bestow mankind with the right spirit to fight the coronavirus and help restore peace, prosperity, and bliss.